Ciao.
Hey everyone, welcome to this month's episode of Princess Auto's See It Work, the show where you get to see our product live in action. I'm Matt, and this is Derek, and on today's episode, we are talking about the light bar line from EVERGEAR. If we have anybody new joining us today, if you have any questions to ask regarding the light bar line, please ask it in the comments section below, and you can be entered to win a prize. Today's prize, we are actually giving away two $500 prize packs to outfit your rig. We have one for off-road use and one for farm use. Both prize packages are supplied by EVERGEAR, and I think both of them are going to be pretty nice.
Yep.
So I think it's time to get started here. Derek,
Right.
What are we going to talk about here first?
Yeah, well, we've got a few different items to talk about, but we're going to talk about our line of light bars from EVERGEAR. We've got some examples here. They're all 13.25-inch light bars, and a little bit of difference between them, but they all do similar jobs. And what we're going to start off with today is we've got this guy here. So this is an amber option on the light bar we've got. So it's got an option for amber strictly, and then the light bar itself that's going to light up 6,000 lumen maximum, right? So nice clear daylight.
Very bright. Yeah.
And you have the option to run either or. So if you're in a foggy environment or you just want a little bit of light to indicate where you are on a trail perhaps, nice option. And all aluminum body. Polycarbonate lenses. They're an IP68 rating, so that means that they are dust proof and they are rated for minimum half an hour under 1.5 meters or more of water.
Underwater.
So, underwater.
They can actually be submerged underwater?
Just like you saw on the lead in. Yeah.
Well,
we've got a little bit of an example here. So
I was going to say, I don't think this show should be called See It Work if you didn't get to see that work.
No, we're going to do something a little different today. So we're going to take this lamp here and we're going to submerge it in water for the duration of the show. So I'm just going to drop it down in the tank. We're going to face it away so we don't get blind. We'll just turn it on here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that. That light is working underwater.
Yeah. So we're going to let it sit there, and you'll be able to see it behind us there when you're watching for the duration. And yeah, we'll give it a shot. And that's just hooked up to a regular car battery. They're a 12 to 24 volt hookup for the light bars. And so you'll be able to use it on off-road equipment, construction equipment, quads, trucks, you name it.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
What about, we got 3 other light bars here. What are the big differences between the few here?
Well, a little bit different. The spectrum of light is going to be the same for the color, the Kelvin rating. And they're going to be a different output rating dependent on the bar, but they're all within that 5,000 to 6,000 lumen setting. So for instance, the one that we've got right in front of me here, we have some B-roll footage of it mounted on a quad.
Nice.
It's kind of a flood / spotlight. So as you can see here, it's going to give you kind of a broad spectrum pattern, the spot going right out the front for long distance, and the flood on the outside edges to kind of wash off to the side of the trail, or again, if you're doing something in a work environment where you want to have kind of the light cast off to the side so you don't trip over something.
For sure.
Yep. And it's got a nice flat bar mount on the bottom of it, and I'll show that here.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So you've got a lot of options for mounting, and you can adjust the angle of the bracket to the lamp itself. Spin it on the side here, so you can loosen that hardware there and tilt it up, tilt it down. If you're mounting it, the bracket, say upside down, for instance, if you're going to have it like this, where the bracket's on top, you can have it pivot down. And then we've got options, as with all the light bars, we have a tube mount option, which is really nice here.
Oh, that's fancy.
Yep. And there are rubber bushings inside, so anti-vibration bushings, but they're also different sizes. You can see the different sizes of the rings throughout. The smallest is going to be 3/4, and then 1 inch and 1 1/4.
Oh, okay.
Or 1.5 inches, sorry. And then you can adjust to what you need, and there's also a pivot, so you can adjust if you want to do it a side mount, depending on how your bar is, if you have to have it mounted like this, and you want to mount the light off to the side, or you want to mount the light facing up or down, all kinds of options. And the lamps themselves, they will all have kind of a...
show that here?
Yep, show that side if you wouldn't mind. They all have a kind of a small notch setup going around the outside, and that's to basically bolt it on and get it adjusted and set into place. The Yeah, you can see the tiny notches. So there's raised areas and lower areas.
Yeah, right along here.
And that way, again, you can clock the position of the lamp, say up or down, right? If you need to have a fixed position. So that's a nice option as well. Those are an optional item. And yeah, so it's, again, IP68 all the way across. So the same type of weather rating as that. Completely dustproof and quite watertight. And aluminum housings, nice and light, large heat sink off the back to be able to cool it off. Yep. And we've got another kind of a flood and spotlight kind of spectrum here. So you've got the outer edges are going to be your flood lamp to wash off, and then your spot in the center. You can kind of see little variations in the two outer lamps on each side. They have a little bit more of a reflective quality inside. Yep.
Okay.
And yeah, and to that end, on the very end, we have a light bar that has a nice option, and they come in a range of colors. This one will actually light up blue on each side where it says EVERGEAR, and then very small strip down the center, there's a bunch of small LEDs that will be an accent. So you can have the accent on, you know, to match your truck if you're at a car show or a truck show or any kind of piece of equipment to kind of match the paint. And there'll be blue, amber, red, and green as options for colors there. And that one comes with the harness as well as the one that we've got in the tank. So it's got a nice harness and a switch and a fuse holder. We do have a 1 or 2 lamp additional harness that you can get. This one will run you around 25, 26 feet overall. And you can have a relay installed in it. It's quick connect here. So for instance, this lamp just in front of us comes with a quick connect pigtail. But if you wanted to run the harness to make it nice and neat and not have to build your own, just unplug the pigtail, plug this guy in, and mount zip tie, mount everything you need. The switch can go into a dash, and like I say, the relay, you can get relays with small hangers on them to fix it to a firewall. Really neat install, nice and clean.
Yeah, it seems quite easy there.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've talked about a little bit of the light bars. I think maybe we should take some questions before we start talking about this other product. Again, if you're just joining us or you are new to this show, if you have any questions for Derek here, please feel free to ask them in our comments section, and you could be entered to win a prize. So some of the questions here, we got a great one from Perry. Is it better to mount your lights below eye level or above? Which offers better clarity?
Clarity would all depend on, I guess, the situation the lamp's in. If you're going to be driving on the highway, of course, you'd have to be cognizant of oncoming traffic and things like that. But if you do a lot of driving out of town, especially this time of year where it's darker and lighter, a little bit later and earlier in the day, I would suggest mounting it as high as possible to broadcast. But again, you can adjust up or down. You can pitch the lamp to kind of meet the application. So everyone's going to be a little bit different. It would all depend on really what you want to do with it.
Okay. Yep. And on that note, we have another great question here. Are these lights street legal?
Street legal, technically yes, in some municipalities, and it would be kind of up to you to check. Some municipalities would like covers for them, and we do offer covers in store. And in some cases, depending on the municipality, and you know, the Highway Traffic Act in Manitoba would tell you that you can have front-facing clear or white or amber lights, but you can't have red, green, blue, because those are typically emergency vehicle lamps.
Yes, okay,
right?
Yep, that makes sense.
So front-facing, no. Again, you'd have to have them covered unless you're running off-road with them. Yep.
Okay, that sounds great. We got another question here from Stephen. Can you connect them via a cigarette lighter plug connection?
You could. I would suggest hardwiring right to a battery or a power source, a junction of some sort. It would just make sense to have as much point of contact with the power source versus putting it through another system, because you're running with either a relay or a fuse set up in this system. You don't want to add on another circuit with another fuse or another component that's just going to possibly have an overheating feature. That,
yeah. All right, that makes sense. Another great question here from David Williams. Are all the light bars here 12 volt DC?
Yes, 12 to 24 volts. So if you're running just a regular quad or any small piece of equipment, you can certainly hook those up, and the option to go to an off-road construction piece of equipment, a grader, something, let's say, or a snow plow that may be running 24 volts. You can certainly hook that up without having to have a voltage drop in it.
Awesome.
Yep.
Got another one here from Northern Chris. Are all the lights here waterproof like the one in the fish tank?
Yep, they're all rated IP68, so that's the highest rating that we have in our light bars, and as you can see, that's working out quite well. The benefit to that is, I mean, obviously, I would hope you're not going to be underwater for any great length of time. But if you happen to be out, four-wheeling or something like that, and you go into a ditch or a puddle or something like that, or crossing a stream, they'll certainly take that as you're fording that stream and going out the other side.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We'll get one more question in here before we talk about these other units.
Sure.
Stephen Lawton is asking, are these for quads only, or can they be used for a truck, a car, tractor as well?
Yep, they can be used on any piece of equipment. Again, we just have to be cognizant of the Highway Traffic Act in your municipality that may or may not allow them to be used. You don't want to blind somebody, cause an accident, or cause them any kind of undue stress when they're driving on the road, but certainly any piece of equipment that has 12 to 24 volts could certainly operate them. And to that end, I know that some people do use them with the appropriate power supply to work them in a building, right, to broadcast light.
Yeah, that definitely works. All right, we'll wait on the questions for a little bit, but again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in our comments section, and you can be entered to win for up to 2 prize packets we have from EVERGEAR, one for off-road and one for farm use. So please get those questions in. We'd love to get around to answering them. So we've talked a little bit about the light bars here, Derek, but we've got 2 other lights here. Let's talk about them. What about this one in front of you here?
Well, this one right here, this is specifically for smaller skid steers, although you could utilize it for any application really.
Okay.
But as we can pull in tight on the box here, and you take a look at the skid steer loader that's on the front, you'll see that the 2 top corners of the front canopy, the front working canopy, is where they have the lamps. And they're triangular to kind of tuck up into the corner. You can see them right there, right? And 10 to 30 volts, so they'll run with all of the small skid steers that are out there. And they're a really low draw. I think most of the light bars we've got here are going to be around 2.5 amps, something like that. So they're not really going to be taxing on the system, which is nice.
Right,
You don't have any heavy wiring or anything. A standard relay, even a switch will run that kind of power. You don't need to have to rely on the relay, but the relay is a nice option. And again, really nice and light, aluminum chassis. Tuck up in there. There's a nice weather-tight fitting, or a connection on the back, I should say. So it's a really nice option to have. And it's an IP67 rating, so it is able to be submerged in water as well, up to 1 meter for around 30 minutes. So again, for the weather that you'd see outside, it's fine.
It's perfect for something like that.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
Cool. And we've got this other fancy unit here, this big LED amber light here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this one here?
Yeah, that's kind of a neat setup there. Yeah, that's really neat. It's a really nice feature to have, and this, the applications are, kind of broad spread. 12 to 24 volt again, so really easy to hook up. Most, vehicles are going to have them. Snow plows, city trucks. If you've got some kind of a piece of equipment that you might be working on the highway, or you're like a chase vehicle or something like that for an oversized load, you can have that set up. There is approximately, I believe it's 14 different patterns, different strobes. Oh, wow. I think it's the maximum, the fastest flash rate they have on the fastest moving strobe is 120 flashes per minute.
Oh, wow.
And you can indicate either solid left, solid right, flashing left, flashing right, or just like a 4-way kind of, look at me, I'm right here kind of a thing to kind of let everybody know where you are.
Yeah.
And again, the same kind of waterproof feature. Very low draw on the system as most of these LEDs are. They're very thrifty for power, so a really nice option and something that you could move from vehicle to vehicle if you had to.
Awesome. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, it's great to hear about this whole EVERGEAR line here. So I think we should maybe take a few more questions.
Sure.
For anybody who's just joining us, we are talking about the light bar line from EVERGEAR, and if you have a question, please ask it in our comment section below, and you could be entered to win a prize.
Yeah.
So yeah, some more questions here. We got one here from Alan asking, can these be used for better visibility for highway driving on a small vehicle? Is it easy to connect?
Absolutely, very straightforward. Again, depending on the model you get, you might have one that has a harness, or you can choose to put an accessory harness or make your own wiring harness up. Realistically, 12 volts, you'll need a switch, a fuse holder, a relay, if you're building your own, or if you choose to get, like I say, one of the auxiliary harnesses that we have. They're ready to go, positive and negative hook in, and finding a spot for the harness and the switch is really all you need to do. And it takes the pain of building a harness if you're not really handy with that kind of stuff out. And yeah, you can put it on any vehicle. And again, we just want to reiterate that you'd want to make sure that your local municipality or your Highway Traffic Act would either allow you or disallow you to drive with them on. But if you're doing a lot of highway driving and it's remote areas, then I'd say as long as it's legal to do so and the oncoming traffic isn't at risk, then by all means.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense to me. We got another question here from Brad Swift. He is asking, is the wiring harness included with all these? And if so, what is the length?
So in the two outside ones that we've got, so the one in the tank and the one on the outside end here, those do have the harness on them. Okay. I'd say you'd be looking at probably about a 6 to 7 foot harness built into that. The auxiliary harness that we have is going to be around 26.5 feet. So it's a little bit longer, obviously, but for the plug-and-play models that we've got here, just unplug, plug in, and then hook the harness up. It's a little bit easier. The harness could be adapted on the other units to extend if you wanted to get further away. If you've got a tall application, or your batteries in the trunk or the back of the box or something like that, whatever the situation might be. But certainly, yeah, you could certainly adapt that.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Brian Hickey is asking, do they come with covers?
They do not come with covers. That's something that we'd have at Princess Auto. You could pop into the store or check online at princessauto.com and kind of see what we've got. There should be a soft and a hard cover option for all of the lights that we've got here, all the light bars. And just to be kind of working within the local law is always good, right? To save those tickets.
Absolutely, yeah, I totally agree. We got another question here asking about the amp draw wire gauge size recommendation for these units.
So commonly what you'll see with the wiring that we've got here, it's 14 gauge wiring, and really that's all you need because it is a very low amperage draw.
Right.
Again, with the auxiliary harness, there is a relay plug in there. So if you throw a relay on that, realistically, the relay is taking the brunt of the power, so the switch is taken out of the equation. It's just there to switch the relay on, and the load's not going to be running through the switch, so it doesn't need to be a high load switch. But yeah, it's standard automotive wiring, or pretty standard automotive wiring in that 14 gauge arena. So pretty straightforward. You don't have to have anything big and bulky hooked up to it, and you can go right to the battery with it. So it's just drawing enough to power the unit.
Perfect. Yeah, nice and easy.
Yeah.
Here's a great question from Stephen Lawton. How many LED light bars is too many LED light bars?
I don't know if there's an answer to that.
I don't think there is even a thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think there's such a thing as too many light bars.
Yeah, I guess it all depends. If you got room on the hood, bolt it on the hood.
All right, we got another question here about the color changing lights here. Is there a remote to change the color on these units, or are each units individually colored?
On that one, no, it is individually colored, so it's just either an accessory lamp color or the white light. I believe we do have a larger light bar that is controlled by an app that does have color shifting that you can do if you're, again, at a car show, or you're out tailgating or something like that, or you can do something like that. But
awesome.
These guys are strictly fixed for that one light.
Excellent. Calla Cooper also has a question here regarding that. What purpose do the colors on the lights serve otherwise than being cool?
That's pretty much it. Again, well, no, I shouldn't say that. I mean, in low light environments, you'll see a lot of operations will use red lamps. So I mean, if you do have a red lamp, for being able to kind of filter out some of the spectrum of light. But again, just to accessorize really your piece of equipment or your boat or whatnot, by all means, I mean, match it. And we do have some smaller driving lights that have detachable rings, different color rings, and you can match them to kind of accessorize the vehicle.
Excellent. That makes sense. Go through a few more questions here. Mary Mason asked, if used in a building, what would you use as a power source?
Well, I mean, really basic, you could use just a battery with a battery charger, but I would look into actually getting a proper power supply that would be a 120 volt from the wall to a 12 volt or 12 to 24 volt in that range, and just with the proper amount of amperage draw output. And that's pretty easy to source. They're available quite easily.
Excellent. Here's another one here from Tom Mueller. Can you run multiple lights at once?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yep, absolutely. Just be cognizant of the, if you're running it through the same switch, just what is the switch going to be able to take, the relay, the fuse, etc. If you're running them on separate switches, by all means, run them. You can run a dozen of them if you wanted to, and light up the whole parking lot.
Awesome. Yep. That's great. We'll do one more question here. We'll get back to the units here. Lauren is asking, is one of the light bars more of a spotlight than the other ones?
They all have kind of a spot and flood feature for the most part. I guess the two outside lamps, the one that has the amber strip and then the one that you can get into different color versions for the accessory light, would give you kind of that that spot versus the spot/flood. They're all going to give that deep spectrum of lamp out towards the front of the vehicle, right? So
yeah. Got another actually great question here from Trevor. The hardware that's included, is it stainless steel for marine applications?
It is stainless steel. Yeah, you get
right.
the hardware pack. I have one right here. So you get your fasteners, washers, nuts, bolts, everything else. Allen head bolts. They're all going to be stainless steel, which is really nice. It's an excellent question. And typical, not exactly what you'll get in every different lamp, but typical is going to be either a stamped steel or a cast aluminum bracket, right? So you've got a slot there, and then you've got the small hole there that's going to be for the mount on the side of the lamp, and then you've got the small little knockouts there for adjusting the angle of the lamp.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we'll take a few more questions in just a little bit. So again, anybody coming in late or just joining us for the first time, if you have questions regarding the EVERGEAR light bar line, please ask in our comments section, and you could be entered to win a prize. But the show is See It Work, and I think maybe we should see another light work. Do you think that's possible?
Yeah. Well, we can grab the one with the blue lamp, the accessory lamp. Yep.
Excellent. Yeah.
And we'll just kind of walk over. We've got the 12-volt battery over here, so
Perfect.
I'll hook it up if you want to kind of.
And look at that. This other light is still going, and it's still been submerged the whole time. That's pretty impressive, I got to say.
And we can switch between the amber feature.
That's very nice.
Right. So we've got amber on. We can switch back over to just our spot.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I would say that's a pretty good looking light right there.
So what we'll do here is we'll hook up here and we'll give you. Yeah, don't look right into it.
It's a bright one. Yeah, I'll tell you. So it's bright.
That's the white, obviously, and then we've got our blue accent.
Oh, look at that. That's pretty
cool.
neat, huh?
Yep. So if you have a blue vehicle or some white vehicle, anything that's going to accentuate with that color, by all means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful looking unit there.
Absolutely.
And these ones you said are available in different colors too, correct?
That's right. Yeah, you've got amber, red, blue, and green is the options there.
Oh, that is awesome. Looks like there are a lot of EVERGEAR light options at Princess Auto.
Absolutely.
So I think we can take a few more questions here before we wrap it up here shortly. So we got a question here from Sean. Are these able to take a shock for off-roading? Say, I guess if you're going through a bumpy road, can they take that beating?
Absolutely. As you saw, maybe if you didn't see in the lead-in, if you want to rewatch the video after we're done here, there's a lot of different things that you can do with them, and a lot of abuse they'll take. Gunshots, drill bits, chop saws, hammers, and whatnot. And yeah, they're a really nice, very, very rugged exterior, and the lens is very tough. Obviously, I mean, it's meant for hard work.
For sure. I got a question here from Stephen Lawton. We keep talking about low amps, but do we have a low amp number for these units? What kind of draw do they have?
The bars are no more than 2.5 amps, and I believe you're around the same, maybe within a half an amp on the other lamps here. Very, very low draw on them. Yeah, as with typical with most LEDs.
Yeah, that's a pretty low amp draw there.
Yep.
Susan is asking, how many hours are the LED bulbs rated for?
Typically around 50,000 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's a lot of usage.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty good. We got another question here. Jax Bailey, would these make a good addition for the foggy and messy winters we have up north? And do we have any issues with these running in very cold temperatures?
Nope, they're rated for hot and cold. The big thing is going to be obviously if you've got a really, kind of a whiteout situation or really heavy fog, as you'd know from just putting on your high beams, it's going to give you kind of a blinding factor, right? But I mean, if you have a light snowfall, but you just want to get some more distance or a broader spectrum of, if there's animals or whatnot coming across the highway, then by all means, one of the spot kind of flood, kind of crossover applications be perfect.
Excellent. That sounds great. Another question here from Sherman. Can the lights plug into each other?
Not into each other, but into the harnesses. And again, you could daisy chain, lights down the spectrum of the vehicle, or top and bottom, or front to back if you wanted to, but not plugging into each other. No, they won't daisy chain.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. And Rick Harper here is asking, the light bar, will it work on 4-way flashers?
As long as it has a power source, then yes, the power source would indicate either on or off. So if your 4-way is indicating power, 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 it would certainly flash. Yep.
All right. And Northern Chris, can I mount the light on my off-grid cabin as a 12-volt permanent light source?
Yes, you could. Yep, absolutely. There's a lot of guys doing that in shops over tool benches and whatnot. If it's something that's off to the side and they don't really have a capability of running over an overhead lamp, so to speak, especially because you can adjust this and tailor it to whatever angle you'd want to get to. If you have the proper type of power supply for it, then by all means. If it's something you're just running a battery off and you're going to be charging the battery every once in a while and you're using it for an hour at a time, something like that, or at a camp, absolutely. I mean, this thing will light up like daylight outside.
Yeah.
Or in a shop.
Yeah, it's very bright.
Yeah.
We got another one here from Reggie Sampson. What's the warranty like on these lights?
The warranty is going to be 1 year, but of course at Princess Auto, if there's something that's over that year, you could certainly go to them and talk to them and see what they can do for you. But realistically, my recollection is we have very, very few issues with these lamps, very stalwart. And if there is something, come and see us and we'll see what we can do for you.
All right, we're going to do one more question here. Ron LeDrew, what is the voltage range that these units can handle?
Typically, most of the LEDs will be in a 10 to 30 volt range. The light bars themselves are 12 to 24, and then I believe this is 10 to 30 and this is 12 to 24. So in that common spectrum, rarely will you see anything other than a golf cart be like 6 volt. So you'd have to kind of work around that if that's what you're working with. But in most cases, anything that's running or driving down the road is going to be at least a 12 to 24 volt.
All right. Yeah. No, that sounds great to me. I think that's everything that we have for today. So I would like to say thank you to everybody for joining us today. It's been a lot of fun talking about these light bars, and thanks, of course, to Derek for joining me today.
Absolutely.
Also, we would like to thank our vendors EVERGEAR for supplying us these great products to sell, and also the prize packs that we have to give away.
That's right.
And before we get to those winners, we'd also like to thank Grant and his dad for lending us that quad that we saw in the throw video. It was great to see a quad like that and be able to hook up that light, use it for these purposes. So for today, our 2 winners for the prize packets are John Holmes and Stephen Lawton. Thank you, John, and thank you, Stephen, for tuning in. And of course, thank you everybody for joining us today. These lights are getting pretty bright, and I'm getting pretty thirsty here, so I got to take a sip soon. So I think it's about, I gotta hydrate. So it's time to wrap things up. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us on See It Work, and we'll see you next month.
Tämä saavuttaa.